All right, guys, look, this is getting out of hand. It really is. I mean, we're on the cusp of the DCU starting. The DCU, the much anticipated, yes, the much anticipated DCU, the new adventures of DC films are about to start. We should all be excited. Yet you have a group of people who just want to bash and basically say it's failed before it's even started. But it brings up a good question. This person here over on X, Vegas Baby KG or KJ, brings up a valid question in a way. What does Superman Legacy have to make financially for it to be considered a success? You see, I've talked about this quite a bit over on Bridging the Geekdoms. And people have come at me and freaked out saying, oh, you're moving the goalposts. But there's a huge difference between 2024 comic book movies and 2013 comic book movies. And 2012 comic book movies and 2016 and 2017 and 2019 comic book movies. We're in a different place than we were in those years. So where in 2024, 2025 does a comic book movie like Superman Legacy need to land financially for Warner Brothers, for the fans, for the analysis, for the experts to say this was a success? You're all going to say, most people are going to say that you need to hit $1 billion to be a success. And right now, we don't know what Superman Legacy's budget is. I will say that it's probably going to be between $200 and $250 million to make Superman Legacy. That, I would say, is a comfortable number heading into production, which principal photography is about to start within the next week and a half. Now, Vegas Baby KJ says Superman Legacy has to make more money than Man of Steel, by the way. And a skull. Won't be that hard to beat, LOL, says Zay. The Batman is doing it during COVID time, so I don't see why Superman Legacy wouldn't do it with adjusted inflation. So there's actually some smart people on here, some not so smart. You go through this and you go on Twitter, you're going to see a lot of people who will say that it's impossible for Superman Legacy to do that. Superman Legacy is going to flop. You have a lot of people who say it's going to be easy to hit that number that Man of Steel made, which, by the way, if you're not aware, Man of Steel, its worldwide box office ended up being $666 million, just shy of $668 million, which isn't anything to bat an eye at. I mean, it did very, very well. The last Superman movie only made $391 million, which was Superman Returns back in 2006. So you're talking about 7 years later, it made nearly twice as much money, which again isn't bad. But you have to start to think about some things. Look at 2013, what was going on at the time. That was the superhero boom. A year prior to 2013, you had The Avengers come out. A worldwide box office of $1.5 billion. Now, people are going to sit there and say, well, you can't compare Man of Steel to The Avengers because Man of Steel was the first movie in a new saga, in a new franchise. You have to compare it to Iron Man, which Iron Man made $585,000, but in 2008, which was 5-6 years prior. So, a movie, Iron Man, which came out in 2008, which was not the superhero boom, the comic book movie boom, it was the beginning of. Yeah, you had your Batman films, which were tearing up the box office, but Batman Begins did not, which was 2005. 2008 had Batman, or The Dark Knight. That did big money, but that's partially because of what happened with Heath Ledger. And then you had Iron Man, which is truly the start of the comic book movie genre boom. You then had Captain America, you had Thor, which Thor didn't do too hot. But Then you got to Avengers. After Avengers, you started getting other movies. And we got to 2014, which was just a year after Man of Steel, and $714,000. So you see, that roughly what Man of Steel made was about what it should have made. I'm not sitting here saying Man of Steel didn't make what it should have made. I think it could have made a little bit more. But here's the thing. The studio felt that it made what it should have made as well. Had it not, they would not have greenlit a sequel. They would not have greenlit a sequel with Zack Snyder. Keep that in mind as well. So, a sequel was made, and Batman v Superman didn't do as hot as we all would have thought. That made roughly $800 million, which for some reason I didn't pull that up, so we'll do this. Batman v Superman. I don't know why I didn't pull it up. Not very smart of me. But Batman v Superman made around $800 million, which was very admirable. But in 2016, you had $872 million worldwide gross. But in 2016, you had other movies. You're talking about all movies making that kind of money. You're talking about Star Wars was making $1 billion. You're talking about the next Avengers movie in 2017 making, $2 billion. You're talking about these comic book movies all making $800, $900, $1 billion at that time. So yes, it was a little bit disappointing, especially when you're touting Batman and Superman. But I digress. We're not talking about the failures of DC brand. We're talking about what we believe Superman Legacy has to do in 2024. Because remember, the topic is Superman Legacy has to make more money than Man of Steel. And Man of Steel made $667 million in 2013. So in 2024, what is going on right now with box office? Well, the latest big Marvel movie, the one that has taken home the most amount of money is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which was directed by none other than James Gunn, took home $845 million. That is a win. That is a huge win for the comic book movie genre. Because if you take a look, Ant-Man and the Wasp, you take a look at, what was the other one? The Marvels. They're all struggling to hit that $500 million range. Some of them are struggling to hit $400 million. But let's take a look at the latest DC movie. $434 million. So what does that tell you about comic book movie genre films in 2024? Of this era, of this current time frame? Because let's not forget that the last really successful DC movie was in... Whoops, where is it at? I thought I had it up. Oh, I don't know what happened. The last one was The Batman, which I did have it up. Just give me a second. I don't know what happened to it. But that made nearly $900 million. Or, I'm sorry, $800 million. $765 million. Nearly $800 million. So, that was in 2022. The market for comic book movies are dropping. Billion-dollar movies for comic book films is not as attainable as it was in 2012, 2013, 2014 to 2019. That's not because people aren't interested. It's because the quality has dropped. If the quality is there, word of mouth gets out, it's absolutely possible. But lately, the quality hasn't been there. So fans have not been going because fans just don't trust that they're going to be that good. And, well, they haven't been that good. Now, James Gunn almost got there. $200 million, not even 200, $155 million away from $1 billion with his latest Guardians of the Galaxy. That's pretty damn close. Do I think Superman Legacy will make $845 million? I don't know. Superman's a hard one. Superman's hard to make a lot of money with. We've seen it. Superman Returns in 2006 didn't even make $400 million. Man of Steel didn't even make $700 million. It will fall on marketing for sure. But I think that people need to lower their expectations and not look at that $1 billion mark anymore. Specifically with comic book movies. I think in 2024, 2025, I think you have to look at like the $750, $800 million mark as being that top tier marker now. That is your $1 billion mark. If a comic book movie hits that number, then you're golden. That is the bar. That is the bar that you want to hit. You are golden at that point. Whereas in 2016, 2017, 2019, that was $1 billion. That was your golden ticket right there. But now it's dropped a little bit. 500, 600 million, you're good. That's a great looking movie if you keep your budget to about $200 million. But if you can get your box office to 600 to 700 million, that's the safety zone. That's the safety zone right now. So I'm going to say this. Does Superman Legacy need to hit $700 million to be successful? Yeah, but that's not because it has to beat Man of Steel. It has to do that because of just the way the market is right now. If they're spending $250 million on this movie, which, again, we don't know what the budget is at this point in time. It could be $150 million. But let's say it's 250. $700 million makes sense. On top of marketing and so on and so forth, $700 million is, where they need to hit. But I would say that to be truly successful for a comic book movie, you want to hit that 800 to 850 million to truly be successful in this current generation of comic book movies. And I would say that about Marvel. I would say that about the Batman 2 that's coming out. I would say that about any movie. I would say that about a Zack Snyder movie if he was making another comic book movie or a movie that is a comic book genre film in any way, shape, or form. That's just the way it is. That's how the comic book genre movie or comic book genre is right now. So let me know your thoughts. I want to know what you think. When it comes to Rotten Tomatoes also, don't care what the scores are with that. I know some people are going to say it needs to be certified fresh for it to be a success. Personally, I think it needs to just hit for the fans. I think the fans need to be taken to a universe, to a franchise, and just have a good time. I remember the first time I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I had a blast watching that film from start to finish. That is what this Superman movie needs to do. It needs to make the audience, the critics, and everybody alike just sit back and say, man, that was a good time from start to finish. I loved the characters. I had a great time. Superman felt like Superman, and it was a blast. Whether that means it makes $1 billion, $800 million, it doesn't matter. This movie needs to be fun. This movie needs to just hit with people in that way. Does it need to play safe? No. I hope James Gunn doesn't play it safe. I hope he does take some chances, because I think some people think he's going to play it safe. I hope he doesn't. I hope he does take some chances. But I want there to be a comfort with Superman. I wanted to just, give me what Superman is. Give me some good action. Give me your typical, gee, golly, shucks, with the Jimmy Olsens. Give me that. Give me great adventure, great story. Your typical James Gunn dynamic with the characters, with the group of people. And I think it's going to be a great time. And I think people will be happy, and it'll perform in the box office with the critics and with the audience. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen. What do you think will be the goal for that movie? What do you think will make it a success? Will it need to hit a certain number for it to be a success? Does it have to hit 667 or 668 million? Let's just say that 668 million at least, or does it need to hit $1 billion? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, share it around with all your friends and family. With all that said, I'll catch you all later.